Hello everybody, it's Miss Jessica and I'm so glad to see you guys again and continue our chapter book story time where we are reading Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library. But before we get started today, I have a really quick question for you. So in chapter 19, Kyle was kind of going up to the Dr. Seuss statue, and so my question to you is, do you have a favorite Dr. Seuss book? Now, my birthday is actually the same as Dr. Seuss's. So I am a big collector of anything to do with Dr. Seuss. And I have to say that my favorite is the Lorax. I really love that book. And I actually have a cat named Lorax. She doesn't come around while we're filming very often. But if she does, I'll definitely point out which one she is. So we are going to be starting today with chapter 20. And right when we left off on chapter 19, it was a very exciting moment. All of a sudden we heard some screaming and we don't know what's happening, but somebody may or may not be in trouble while they're trying to escape from the library. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 20, Losers. That's what Charles Chillington thought about sentimental saps like Kyle Keeley. A damsel in distress starts screaming and he forgets all about winning the game to go rescue her? What a pathetic loser. Unless, of course, Haley Daly was screaming because she had already found the alternate exit. That made Charles laugh. Impossible. Although quite pretty, Haley Daly, the princess of the 7th grade, was a total airhead. There was no way a dumb girl like her could have outsmarted Charles Chillington. It was time to play his hunch. Twice already, the head librarian, Dr. Zinchenko, had said the library staff is here to help you find whatever it is you are looking for. She said it once when they were just about to enter the library, again when she was reading the laundry list of rules. Well, what Charles was looking for was a way out of the building that wasn't the front door and wouldn't set off any alarms. That was why he kept coming back to the lobby with the gurgling fountain. Why he kept studying this display case labeled Staff Picks Our Most Memorable Reads. The staff is here to help, he muttered. These are staff picks. Ipso facto, this has to be some sort of enormous clue. Inside the sealed bookcase, Charles saw 12 book covers. One for each of the 12 12-year-old players, he wondered. The display items weren't actual books. They were cover art mounted on book-sized foam core. 3 covers were lined with each one of the case's 4 shelves. Since there weren't actual books with spines, none of the covers included their call numbers. Charles focused on the 3 books lined up on the bottom row. Hoosier Hospitality was on the left, in the pocket, Johnny Unitas and me in the middle, and the dinner party was on the right. Charles decided to concentrate on the Johnny Unitas title. He moved into the rotunda and did a quick card catalog search on one of the desktop computers. When he typed in the pocket, a matching cover image popped up, but still no call number. In the spot where the identifier should have been, there were instead a censor's thick black box and the words, ID temporarily removed from the system. Scrolling further down the screen, Charles came across a rather unusual annotation. You didn't really think we'd make it that easy, did you? Charles grinned. The computer was telling him he was on the right track. He glanced up from the desk. The children's room was directly in front of him. The book about Johnny Unitas, with its cartoony cover depicting a football player wearing a number 19 jersey and dropping back to launch a pass, was most likely a children's book. Of course, it was also a sports biography. So, would it be shelved with sports books, biographies, or children's books? Charles went back to the computerized card catalog. He read the book's description. Billy wants to be a great quarterback like his hero Johnny Unitas, but his coach is worried he'll get hurt. It sounds like fiction, a made-up story. It had to be in the children's room. As Charles crossed the slick marble floor, something else struck him. This was like Husker Du, a memory game he had played when he was in kindergarten. He was on a hunt to find a hidden match for the football book cover he had just memorized. This was, in short, another memory game. That was why the staff picks display had been subtitled Our Most Memorable Reads. Clever, Lemoncello, he muttered. Very clever indeed. Charles entered the children's department. It didn't take him long to find the book because in the pocket was propped up on a miniature stand on top of a shelf. Found it, Charles proclaimed. Then, savoring the moment, he picked up the book and read the title out loud. In the Pocket, Johnny Unitas and Me. All of a sudden, a row of animatronic geese tucked into a corner of the room started honking and singing. They call him Mr. Touchdown. Yes, they call him Mr. T. The squawking birds startled Charles so much he dropped the book. When he did, a 4x4 card fluttered out from behind its cover. Charles bent down to pick it up. Printed on the card was a black and white silhouette, a quarterback wearing a number 19 jersey, just like Johnny Unitas, was arching back his arm to throw a pass. Oh, and here's that picture. Charles grinned. He was definitely on the right track. He tucked the silhouette card into his pocket and hurried back to the lobby to memorize more book covers. Chapter 21. Ouch! I'm stuck! Help! Haley Daly's cries sailed up the staircase as Kyle led the charge down the steps into the stacks. So, what exactly are the stacks? Asked Akemi 3 steps behind Kyle. It's where the library stores its collection of research materials, said Sierra, who was 2 stairs behind Akemi. The 3 of them reached the basement. It was filled with tiny rows of floor-to-ceiling shelving units. Help! Haley sounded like she was on the far side of the room, behind the walls of metal storage racks crowded with books, bins, and boxes, books, and bins. What is all this stuff? Said Kyle, looking for a passageway, trying to figure out how to get to wherever Haley was. Mostly rare books and documents you can't check out, said Sierra. But if you fill out a call slip, you can use the material up in the reading room. With a whir and a whoosh of its electronic motor, a shiny robot the color of the stormtroopers of Star Wars scooted across an intersection between bookshelves. It moved on tank treads and had what looked like a shopping cart attached to its front. Let's follow that robot, said Kyle. It might know the fastest way to reach Haley. The trio dashed up a narrow pathway to where they saw the robot extending its quadruple-jointed mechanical arm to pluck a flat metal box out of a slide-in compartment. The box had been stored in a section of shelving with a flashing LCD that read, Magazines and Periodicals, 1930s. Somebody upstairs wants an old magazine, said Akemi. They're probably researching the Gold Leaf Bank building, said Sierra. I think it was built in the 1930s. Help! Screamed Haley. I'm stuck! Hang on, shouted Kyle. We're coming. Well, hurry up already. This way, said Kyle. They scampered up another aisle, turned right, and saw Haley, her hand jammed through a horizontal slot near the top of the basement wall. To reach it, she had to stand on an elevated treadmill maybe 30 feet long. Since the thing was rolling, Haley was jogging in place so she wouldn't fall on her face. The high-tech conveyor belt was actually a series of rollers. 10 robot carts, staggering so no 2 were directly across from each other, were lined up on either side. I think it's an animatronic book sorter, said Sierra. That laser beam near Haley's ankle probably scans a book's tag and tells the conveyor belt which of the 10 sorting trays to shove it into. You guys, screamed Haley, hurry up and rescue me. Kyle stepped back, tried to assess the situation. What is that slot you're hanging on to? The bottom of the stupid book drop, said Haley, trotting on the treadmill. I saw it on the floor plan. People can walk up to it on the sidewalk and return their books. I figured it had to lead down here. Smart move, said Kyle. You could crawl through that slot and escape. If you were the size of a book, Akemi said sarcastically. I never got that far, said Haley. The minute I stepped onto this belt thing, it started moving. Kyle nodded. Probably a weight-activated switch. A book falls in, said Akemi. The sorter starts up. Clever, said Kyle. Plus, it gives our game its first booby trap. Well, the game is no fun if you're the booby stuck in the trap, said Haley. Kyle turned to Sierra. We need to stop the belt so Haley can yank her hand out of the slot without falling on her butt or cracking open her skull. Have you ever read a book about where the hero outwits an escalator or a rolling checkout belt in the grocery store or something? No, said Sierra. Not really. How about one where the hero just flips an emergency shutoff switch, said Akimi, because that's what I'd do. If, I found one. Akimi was standing next to a wall-mounted switch box. She flicked it down. The conveyor belt slowed to a stop. Ta-da! Another chapter for my amazingly awesome autobiography, if I ever write one. Haley yanked her hand out of the book return slot. It sort of popped when it finally sprang free. She collapsed to her knees on the frozen treadmill. My hand feels flatter than a pancake, she moaned. Are you hurt? Asked Kyle. Maybe we should tell the security guys that... What? That I have a boo-boo and need to go home? Forget it, Kyle Keeley. You are not going to beat me that easily. I'm not trying to. Haley showed him the palm of her hand. Save it, Keeley. She crawled off the conveyor belt. One way or another, I'm going to win this game. I just hope starring in Mr. Lemoncello's commercials earns me some money. She hobbled across around the bookshelves toward the staircase up to the reading room. When she was gone, Akimi raised her hand. Question. Yeah, said Kyle. How come the guys inside the control room didn't flip a switch to shut off the book sorter when they saw Haley doing her cardio cha-cha-cha on it? Kyle shrugged. Maybe they weren't watching? Actually, said Sierra, pointing to a square tile on the floor near the book sorter, I think they were. Kyle looked down. The tile was glowing like one of the tablet computer screens upstairs in the rotunda. Kyle read the words zipping across the illuminated square. Congratulations, he read out loud, for helping Haley and being a sport. You've earned much more than a good report. The tile popped open. Inside a small compartment was a rolled up tube of paper with a yellow card clipped to its end. Huh, said Akimi. I guess somebody was watching us. Kyle pulled the yellow card off the paper tube. It smelled like lemons. What's it say? Asked Sierra. Kyle flipped the card over so Sierra and Akimi could see what was printed on it. Super duper bonus clue. Chapter 22. Oh man, that was so dumb. Haley could not believe how idiotic she had been, trying to crawl out of a book return slot like that was going to work. She was giving herself a good talking to as she trudged up the steps to the first floor. When she entered the rotunda, she saw Charles Chillington slipping out into the lobby again. Chillington was a snake. Worse, a garden slug. Maybe a leech. Something oily and slimy that left a greasy trail and liked to mooch off other people's ideas. That was why Chillington had tailed the twin library nerds, Peckelman and Fernandez, upstairs during last night's dessert hunt. Haley was smart enough to know that Chillington was hoping to steal the book geek's ideas. Actually, Haley was a lot smarter than anybody, except her teachers and whoever scored her IQ tests knew. With certain people, mainly grown-ups and silly boys, pretending to be a ditzy princess made getting what she wanted a whole lot easier. And what she wanted right now was money. Lots of money. Her dad had been out of work for nearly a year. They'd run through all the rainy day savings they'd had to borrow from relatives and in-laws. If Haley could win this competition and become Mr. Lemoncello's spokesmodel, her family's money problems would be over and they wouldn't have to sell their home. And once other people saw her on TV for Lemoncello games, they'd want her for their commercials too, and movies. Maybe her own sitcom, something on the Disney Channel? But for all that to happen, Haley needed a winning idea, and fast. Something better than crawl through a slot that's barely wide enough for your wrist. Maybe she should flush herself down the toilet and escape through the sewers like Charles did in that video game. She headed over to the Book Nook Cafe so she could sit down and think. She stepped into the room and checked out the snack table. There were trays of cookies, strawberries, bananas, and brownies. Sitting down to nibble on a macaroon, she studied the row of cookbooks displayed on the bookshelves lining the wall. One in particular caught her eye. Cupcakes, cookies, and pie oh my. Because the cover looked extremely familiar, 2 googly-eyed sheep made out of chocolate frosted cakes with gobs of mini marshmallows for fleece. Haley had seen that cover before. In the lobby! It was that glass case of memorable reads selected by the library staff. She went over to the shelf and picked up the book. When she opened the cover, she discovered 2 cards. One was a 4x4 piece of white cardboard with a black silhouette of a sheep on it. Just like that. The second card was yellow and about the same size as a community chest card in Monopoly. Haley sniffed the card. It smelled like lemons. She grinned. For Lemoncello. On one side of the yellow card was printed, super duper bonus clue. On the other side of the clue, your marvelous memory has earned you an even more memories. Proceed to the Lemoncello Abelia room. Look for item number 12. Haley slid both cards into the back pocket of her jeans, pulled out the library floor plan, and found the Lemoncello Mobilia room. It was on the 3rd floor. Making certain nobody, Charles Chillington, was following her, Haley quietly dashed up a spiral staircase to the 2nd floor. Checking for Chillington one more time, she tiptoed up to the 3rd floor, where she found the room labeled Lemoncello Abelia. Mini museum of personally interesting and somewhat quirky junk. Haley opened the door and stepped inside. The front room was like a storage warehouse. Cardboard boxes were stacked on top and wooden crates sitting on plastic bins stuffed with papers. All the boxes, bins, and crates were numbered. She saw one labeled number 576. Guess Mr. Lemoncello never throws anything away, Haley remarked as she scanned the heaps looking for the number 12 mentioned in her bonus card. Weaving her way through the stacks and columns, Haley finally found the super duper bonus item. Number 12 was an old boot box from an Alexandria Phil shoe store Haley had never heard of. Someone had taped a label on the lid, paraphernalia, accoutrement, and doodads from Mr. Lemoncello's 12th year. Haley lifted the lid. The box was filled with all sorts of confusing knickknacks. Hand-whittled prototypes for game pieces, a star-spangled red, white, and blue HHH Humphrey button, a battered clasp envelope sealed with tons of tape. Sorry, 2 kitties are fighting right now. Someone had scribbled "first and worst idea ever" on the front of the envelope with magic marker. It's always exciting around here. There was also a felt pennant from Disneyland and a rubber-banded stack of cartoony cards for something called Wacky Packages. The card on top was Wiki's Breakfast of Chumps. Haley knew this memory box had to be an important clue. Why? She had absolutely no idea. All right, we're going to stop there. We just finished chapter 22 and we're ready for chapter 23. So don't forget, my question for you guys is if you have a favorite Dr. Seuss book. So comment down below and we'll see what we hear from you guys, and if you have a favorite, if you have a different one than mine, or if you have one that you always loved to read when you were younger. Also, don't forget, we have lots and lots of resources for you. While we can visit you in your homes right now, you can't visit us, but you can always go to our Hoopla app or also our Libby by Overdrive app, and that will get you some digital materials. You can also visit evpl.org, and that will also get you connected to a lot of resources. And don't forget to keep an eye on our Facebook page, because I know we're going to be having lots of exciting things for you guys coming up. And hopefully we'll see you soon. And thanks for joining us today.